Once again, en route to any incident, the officer in charge will be detailing the crew members to their individual roles. Once they arrive, the crews will be detailed to get the hose reels ready to work. Covering jet will be applied to the eaves, and the BA team will be readying themselves. So the initial water attack will be going up to protect the property and surrounding properties. The officer in charge will be briefing the BA team as to exactly what he wants them to do when they go into the building. In this instance, the crews will be directed to go in as a search, rescue and firefighting team. But before they enter the property, they'll be fitting a smoke curtain. The reason we fit a smoke curtain is we don't want to be allowing any extra air into the property to fuel a fire. So by adding the smoke curtain, we stop that ingress of oxygen. So once again, the BA team will go through a set procedure for donning their BA sets. They will then check each other's equipment and PPE to make sure that it's suitably covered and safe. When our crews approach the building, while they're fitting the smoke curtain, they'll be using one of our thermal image cameras to check the building for any internal hot spots. This will give the crew members a rough idea of where any fire is inside the property. So the smoke curtain will be deployed now. The number one in the team will be testing the hose reel to ensure that they've got sufficient water. So the crews will now check the door in the building before they make entry. They'll initially open the door, they'll check the inside with the thermal image camera. So now they're looking for any fire in the initial vicinity of the door, any hot gases, any flow paths, giving them a clue as to where the fire may be. Once the number one is happy, the crew will then make their entry into the building. And as they move through the building, they'll systematically be searching each compartment. And a lot of this will be done pretty much blind because they're not going to be able to see because it's going to be so dark and smoky. So one of the team members will be able to use the thermal image camera, and that'll give them a rough idea of any dangers and hazards or where any casualties may be. And then they'll be literally doing a touch feel throughout the building, looking for any casualties. Once they've been located, they'll inform the officer in charge outside that a casualty has been located, and then they will then start to bring the casualty out of the property. So if you can imagine moving through your own home with your eyes closed, that's exactly what our crews are doing in this building now. They can't see anything, and they will be feeling for every single obstruction, whether it's a chair, the coffee table, the cat, the dog, the kids' toys, okay, and they'll be making their way through looking for the seat of the fire and any casualties. So as we can see now, the number 1 is leading the number 2 out with the casualty. The casualty will then be handed over to the ambulance service. The crews will then report back to the officer in charge. And then once he's happy that the fire has been extinguished and the building is safe and been ventilated, the order knock-off make-up will be given. And then all the equipment will then be restowed on the appliance. They'll go back to station, and then they'll carry out their after-use checks on every single piece of equipment so that we know it's ready for the next incident. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. That ends our second demonstration. The next demonstration